Well, welcome back to the Ropes Family Podcast, episode 96. I don't put the episode numbers on the podcast thing. I probably should, but I don't. It's more fun to say it. Episode 96. So today we're talking about something pretty interesting, and in our little show notes or episode ideas, titles thing, Courtney put this in there, and I was really confused about it. So, Courtney, I'll let you go ahead and introduce us on today's episode topic.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you the title, but I'm going to explain it.
So are we going to title the episode this?
Well, I don't know. This is just what I titled it.
Okay.
What would this church become if everyone contributed the way I do?
The way I do.
But not like me personally. This is like a personal question for you to ask yourself.
For the listeners to ask themselves.
Yes. This is not if we all acted like Courtney or all acted like Josh. That's not what we're saying here.
Let's do that fun experiment. If everybody acted like me, there would be nothing done.
If they acted like me, nobody would be friends with anybody.
It would be chaos, complete chaos. If we did everything just like me. That would be a good time. That'd be a good experiment. We should do that.
I don't even know if I can do that.
But anyway, so this kind of goes off of the topic that we were talking about last week about, being a participant, not just a consumer. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the word I used, but that's what I meant. Mm-hmm. And in, I tried to quote 1 Corinthians 12 or whatever, but and then I just ended up reading it, I'm not going to quote it this time. It's in 1 Corinthians 12, I'll just read 12, 19, 18 and 19. It says, "But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body." So this kind of goes into it, so one body, many parts, but what if the church acted, or what would the church look like if we all contributed the way I do? Mm-hmm. So basically it's asking us to look at ourselves as in a mirror. So mm-hmm. What kind of church member are we?
Right.
Is kind of the question it's asking. Mm-hmm. And so did you have like a series of questions
yes.
to kind of help us ask it? So what intrigued you about this?
So I follow a bunch of children's ministers, mm-hmm. and I've been looking into how to not grow my children's ministry, but just make sure that it is doing its job, and it's not just here like a babysitting service, but that it's actually discipling kids. And so when I read this, it says, "There's a sentence I wish more Christians would ask themselves before criticizing their church." And I was like, what would that sentence be? And when I read, what would this church become, if everyone contributed the way I do, I was like, oh, that's a really good question for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking at it, and I started really reflecting on what I do outside of just my kids' ministry, because mm-hmm. that's great, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for us to, and this is not patting ourselves on the back, but it's kind of hard for us to answer this from our perspective, just because the whole church would be a youth ministry.
Yeah.
if everybody did.
We'd be doing crafts. We'd all have green hands right now like I do. But the first question is, would the church be friendlier?
Yeah.
Like looking at yourself, if everyone acted like you.
Would it be friendlier?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a tough one, because I think, I think our church is naturally friendly.
Yes.
That's one thing that I noticed when I moved here 8 years ago, or when we moved to Texas, however many years ago, I don't even know, from New Mexico. Like, people would just talk to you, say mm-hmm. hi, wave, say how you doing, things like that. Where I'm from, that didn't happen. Yeah. And I don't know if that was just probably, I genuinely think that's a New Mexican thing. And the New Mexicans can probably back me up on this, but I think the closer you get to Texas, and that's actually in Texas, it changes. But that's one thing when Allison and I moved to Texas, people were just friendly. I thought everybody was my best friend. Yeah. Because they would all talk to me, know my name. That was great. Mm-hmm. And then when we moved here to this church, I was like, yeah, they're great here. It was mm-hmm. people were very friendly here. Mm-hmm. At least to start. I'm not saying nobody's.
Now they're not.
Everybody, for me, as I've noticed, everybody's pretty friendly.
Yeah.
But it also takes some, like, hey, you got to be friendly back. It can't just be like a one-way thing. And I think that's the thing about New Mexicans, or I'm generalizing all New Mexicans. My experience in New Mexico is I probably wouldn't speak to them, so they weren't going to speak to me back, and then vice versa. Like, we were probably just like getting our, oh, look, there goes that random skateboarding kid that's just buying Monster Energy drinks. Let's just
those girl pants on, those long hair.
I wore my sister's pants once or twice, but then I got my own pants. That were fine.
That looked like girl pants. Anyway, okay. By the way, I didn't know him in high school. I'm just going off pictures.
Yeah. You grew up in Texas, so like this is way older normal for you. Yeah. You're not. You're 4 years older. That's not way older. We're in the same generation. We both can barely use a phone. Just kidding. True. We can use phones and stuff,
but I think for me, I took it as: am I friendly outside of church? Am I inviting people to come to our church? Do people see me and think, ooh, I want to visit FBC Ropes? Or do they see me and think, ooh,
yeah,
if that's what everyone acts like, I'm not going there.
Wow.
That's how I took it.
That's a good way to think of it. I tell the youth group all the time, and I probably should do this more for me too, is, people know us. Mm-hmm. Whether we know that or not, people have some sort of, especially as Christians, like they're going to know that we're Christians, and we might be the only version of Jesus people see. Mm-hmm. So I kind of tell it in that broader aspect, is like we might be the only Christian somebody runs into, and if we are acting a fool, they're not going to want to have anything to do with us. There's this, I tell this story, and I think I've preached this story. So if you've heard this before, I've shared this a lot, but it's a good story. So I may have even said it on the podcast.
It's okay.
Repeat. So senior year in high school, we were all given this project to put in a brown paper bag what we wanted to do when we grew up, when we graduated high school. Me, procrastinated. I knew what I wanted to do, but I was like, it was time to present, and I had that brown bag in my backpack, and I had my Bible in my backpack. So I put I probably should have done more stuff, but I winged it. Probably should have put like guitars and other things, some kind of way to represent. But all I had was my Bible in my little brown bag. So I put my Bible in my brown bag, and then I got up there and I pulled it out and I said, I want to be a pastor. I want to do this when I want to do whatever God tells me to do. I'm going to hold my Bible up. I want to do this when I grow up. Fast forward a couple weeks, I'm in that same class, and we're making some really off-color jokes. I can't remember the jokes, or I would tell it. Just kidding. But there was this kid that I knew that wasn't a Christian, but he was of another religion that I wouldn't consider Christian, as far as I'm going to go on that part. But he hears me make this joke, and he turns around and he's like, hey, I thought you wanted to be a pastor when you got out of high school. I thought pastors don't act like that. People.
Ouch.
Yeah. And like I graduated in 2011. So that was 15, 16 years ago. 15 years ago.
15 years, yeah.
And that sits with me every day. Like I represent Christ in what I do. And that brings me to one of the verses I wanted to share. It's in 2 Timothy 2, let's see, 15. It says, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. And it goes on, but avoid irreverent babble, for it will lead people into more and more ungodliness, and their talk will spread like gangrene, which is wild.
It's a lot.
So do your best. What does it say? Yeah, do your best to present yourself as one approved, as God as one approved. So that's a thing. And that's not just for pastor. I mean, he's writing this to Paul is writing this to Timothy, one of his disciples, but a pastor. But it's not just for that's for the godly man. That's for the godly woman. Present yourself to God as one approved. Always be ready. Always be acting. Try to avoid acting like a fool, or your talk's going to spread like gangrene. It's a tough thing. It's tough, but we're not called to live an easy Christian life. We're called to live as one approved. So sometimes that takes, and sometimes it takes a kid calling you out.
Yeah,
and making it a
little painful for you.
Yeah, like that. I'm not kidding. That story sticks with me And like, I remember that. Like, I remember the kid. I know where he lives. I know like all of the things because I'm like, that got me. I'm not like stalking the kid, but I just like remember. Yeah, like I remember all the things about. Actually, one time, this is a side story. He lived right around the corner from Allison growing up, and one time, his yard was on fire. I don't know how it got on fire. It was really Carlsbad. His yard caught on fire, and so I knocked on his door and saved his house. I was like, "Hey man, my mom did that once. Did I tell you?
Oh, yes,
remember I shared that story? My mom rescuing.
So now you and your mom.
So I'm following my mom's footsteps. But yeah, I did that. His yard was on fire. Like we called the fire department. I knocked on it. I'm like, "Hey man, your yard's on fire." He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah."
Like, I am a good person. Look at me.
Remember me now. Hey, listen, my life growing up is wild. There's all kinds of stories just
I can only
locked
imagine.
up in there. And Allison gets them every once in a while. She's like, "Dang!" But anyway, sorry. Go. Let's continue with. Let's continue with your.
Well, along those lines, not really. But would guests feel welcomed at our church if everyone acted like I do or you do?
In the mirror, yeah. Have everybody looking at ourselves like we're in the mirror. For me, and I know it's kind of hard to say for me, but for me, I'm on Sunday mornings. I'm walking around looking busy because I am, and so I try to slow down and say hi to people. But
yeah,
that's not just my job. Like that's the entire church body's job to make people feel welcome. And even as awkward as it is sometimes, like, hey, they know they're new, we know they're new. Let's try not to bombard them, but let's make them feel welcome.
Ben's really good at that. I usually get stuck like hugging my own family.
Yeah.
And talking to them. But Ben is off like across the church talking to someone. He comes back and he's like, "That's Sam and his wife Tina." And I'm like, "Okay." They have 5 kids, and I'm like, "Okay."
Sam and Tina, 5 kids.
I have no idea, but he always knows their names and their kids, and he's like, "Do you know them?" "Nope." "Well, they're new." "Okay."
Awesome.
Thank you.
And that's the thing. We have seen a lot of new people in our church over the last summer, and it's been really fun. It's been awesome. But I think that's been a thing we needed to focus on is like, hey, we need to make connection instead of just say hi. Make a connection. Like they're visiting our church for a reason.
Right.
They may be plugging into the school for the first time, or they may be doing something. So it's important that church members, be friendly and not just fake friendly.
No.
Be like real friendly. Like get to know them, invite them, do things. Hey, we're doing this next week. We're doing this next week.
Make sure they know that they're invited to things.
Yeah. What's the next question?
Would children be discipled?
If everybody acted like I do? Or
like themselves?
Yeah, so ask yourself, would children be discipled? Or, if you don't have kids, how can you contribute to discipling kids? Yeah. I think that's what this question, yeah. I think our church does a pretty good job of this. I think that there's, and these questions kind of really help you see the gaps in our church. Like I'm not trying to toot our own horn here at any of these questions. There are things that our church struggles at, and we need help, or we need to emphasize certain things. But as far as our kids ministry, I think it does a great job. And I'm not just saying that just because of you're sitting right here. I think that, we have a good set of volunteers that
we do,
that care and that are equipped well, and I think the kids are discipled, but also part of me, I don't know if this question's in there, part of my heart is, the parents doing the brunt of it.
Right.
And so I would like to see more parents doing the brunt of the discipleship. I read in a book, in a probably family discipleship group book or whatever, I don't know what it is. I read it somewhere that, they refer to church staff as professional disciplers, which, I mean, we're not. That's not what we should disciple, but all Christians should disciple. We as church staff should just facilitate that to happen. Make it easier, equip the believers, equip the saints to do the things. That's what we should be doing as the staff or as the people who run the ministries. But really what it needs to be, as far as for youth and for kids, is like the parents really should. And that was birthed that's why this podcast exists, is to encourage and to help, you
Right.
know, to come alongside and just to give, you know, thoughts on topics. But I think that parents really should be the ones that do the brunt of the discipling. And I really, this has been a slow thing trying to roll out, you know, to try to equip more and more parents to do this. And I think that, you know, I think our church is kind of coming around to it a little bit more of like, oh, this is really the way it should be done, you know, because
Right.
in the past, and I've seen this in many churches, is like the youth ministry is a complete separate thing than
Yes.
the actual church. And then the children's ministry is a little closer but sometimes it seems like the youth ministry or the college ministry or things like that are completely separate things under an umbrella. But
Right.
I really think that we should do it all together.
Actually, y'all told me, I asked a question the other day about something, and you're like, oh, that's under this church, but it's called something completely different. And I was like, how in the world is that connected? But y'all explained it to me, but that's interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think at bigger scales like that, when we were talking about, that's kind of the way it has to be sometimes. But I really think that, you know, as far as effective or great, for the way that I really love it, is for parents to be fully involved.
Well, we've talked about it before, but if we're doing all the discipling as children's ministry or youth ministry, with children's ministry, they're here 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
Youth ministry, they're here 2
Yeah.
with just us.
Yeah.
That's not enough time to, I mean, it's enough time to make a difference, yes, but not to fully disciple them.
Yeah. And what percentage of that is of a week?
I don't do math.
I don't know. It's like 1%.
It's
or
not
something.
many.
You know, I think there was a youth pastor person that I know that I stood a DNow for, and he was on a podcast, and he said, if the kids are in the door every time they can be, it's less than 4% of their year at church. You know, and so what are we doing with the other 96%?
Yeah.
I know there's school in there. But then after school, like, I don't know how much school takes up. It seems like it takes
A
up
lot.
80, 90% of the time.
99.
But what are we doing with the other
Right.
percent time that we have? You know, are we filling it with other things that are good, like sports? Those things are great.
Yeah, they're not bad.
We're actually talking about a little bit of that tonight. Like, those are good things. They form you. They teach you discipline. But when those things become the only thing that are forming you and disciplining you, those are things. That's when it becomes dangerous. I didn't mean to get onto that, but like parents, like that's my heart is to come alongside, because I'm not perfect at this.
Me
You know,
either.
I catch myself. I'm in the car 8 hours a day. It seems like, you know, driving my kids back and forth to football practice or cheerleading practice or whatever. I understand it. I get it, and I'm trying to figure it out too. And so that's kind of my heart, is trying to figure out how to do this. And we'll talk about this a little bit more next week. I think we're going to talk about keeping Christ in our routine. And we'll talk about establishing like family rhythms. We'll talk more about this next week. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one you got on there.
Okay, our next question is, would lonely people be noticed? Which I want to say yes, looking at myself. But I've seen a couple of people eating by themselves, like on a potluck Sunday. Did I go in there with them?
Yeah.
No, I said, oh, hey, I was looking for my family, and walked away.
Yeah.
It would have taken 2 seconds to sit down with them and eat my meal with them. So I don't know that I'm very good at that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, we could also think about it as like visiting our shut-ins.
That too.
Are the people that our church has ministered to for 70 years, are they still being taken care of? Are they still, are they lonely? And that's a tough one. You know, I think Donovan does a good job.
He does.
at
He does
that.
a very good job.
And he does a really good job of that, and at visiting the people that need it. But it shouldn't just be left up to Donovan. You know, like it should be any of us. You know, like, and I think that's a thing that we can work on. You know, like, hey, these people are available. They need we need to go. Somebody needs to take them something or go do something. Mow their yard. Talk to them for a minute. You know, I think that's something that we could work on. And but you go ahead.
Well, I had someone tell me that they couldn't go see someone that was a shut-in because they would be stuck there all day.
Yeah.
And I agreed with them at the time. I was like, yeah, you're right. There's not enough time today to do that. And then I left and I was like, that's not okay. Like, they're stuck at home. They've since passed. But you could go spend an hour of a 24-hour day. You have an hour. And so later when I talked to this person, I told her, like, we can go. We can go sit there and talk to that person. It would not hurt us. And she agreed that that day was just a bad day. But I agreed so quickly to be, oh, no, there's not enough time.
Yeah.
But there is, if you make time, which is keeping Christ in your routine.
I think that makes a good point of like, man, I lost it. You had the thought afterward, I think that's a good, like, there's grace, like, that's a big point of all of this is like, we're not going to be perfect at this.
Right.
And a few years ago, Donovan and I, this was before you came on staff, Donovan and I we used to do staff meetings at Rudy's because
they quit that when I came on. Huh?
Well, I worked at Guitar Center in the same parking lot. So we would meet on my lunch break, do a staff meeting, just Donovan and I, because it was just, we were the only two. But we were trying to come up with some kind of like, not a catchphrase, but like a tagline you put under your logo. How we do this a lot. But we were thinking about like, what are the characteristics of our church? And at that time, our church was full of grace, and it really still is. Like we never settled on one, but like one thing that we noticed is we have a lot of grace here. The fact that I still work here is a testament to that. Like, there's a lot of grace here. Yeah. And we are quick, and we're quick to show it, and it's not, I don't think anybody expects perfection out of anybody, and we, sometimes we let things go for too long before we address things, and that's not grace at that point.
Right.
And I don't want to get too far into that.
No.
I'm just thinking, but I think that, that's a good point, is to have grace for when we don't measure up to those things. And I think what you learn from there is and people can learn from grace. You learn from grace. Like, hey, we can go and do those things. We can go and visit this person. And that also goes to, instead of being a consumer, to being a producer, or to being is that the word I used earlier? Participant
into a producer.
Yeah. You can go and produce fruit. That's fruit bearing, is going and visiting that person or doing those things. We can move out of that, for when the people actually, like people like shut-ins that have been faithful to the church for 70 years, it's time for them to be consumers. Oftentimes we are like, well, the people that are here are the ones that we need to, cater to. But it's oftentimes the people that are lonely that we need to go and.
Well, and I think I mentioned this, but I had an older person tell me one time that our church is just now focused on kids. And that obviously bothered me because I'm talking about it 6 months later. But I kept looking and I was like, we're not only focused on kids. It's not just children. It's not just youth. We do a lot more. But what am I personally doing? And that's what I think each person needs to look at is, are we each taking time to do more of that? To sit with someone who may have lost their spouse.
Yeah.
And we have some ladies in our church that have lost their husbands. One of them is one of my best friends. She's hilarious. But are we taking the time to make them feel loved and appreciated? And so I think that's a big deal.
It's a big one.
I have a bunch more questions, but I'm not sure how much time we have.
We're at 24 minutes. We're not even close to last week's episode yet.
Okay.
Maybe we can go a little faster. But
okay. What encouragement multiply?
Yeah. What encouragement multiply? I mean, that one's kind of self-explanatory. Just encourage people. Like support people, be with people.
Don't look for the negative in everything.
Yeah, that may be the right answer to that question. I was thinking like, well, this community kind of shows out for everybody.
Oh yes, for sure.
Like if you get a little bit of something, we're gonna rally.
Yeah.
We're gonna rally around you or whatever, or the community will. which has been really cool to see, good or bad. You know, like with, I think she wouldn't mind mentioning it, like Callie's accident.
Right.
You know, like the community rallied. That was showing support, you know, encouragement to her family and you know, that was a great thing to see for our community to do. And then, you know, there's been other things, I don't need to get into all of it, but like good or bad, you know, our community rallies, which is great. And what was the question one more time? I want to make sure I answer it right.
Would encouragement multiply if everyone was acting like each person?
Yeah, I think that there is room for it more. I know that I really like to be, me personally, I like to be encouraged, but I don't know how to take it when people are like, "Hey, you're doing," I'm like,
just awkward.
Thanks.
Thanks. Well, I didn't do this right because I don't want to be like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, but I think that, you know, if we, Jim Archer, the guy, one of the people that spoke at our conference a few months ago, he does this thing every November. I don't know if this is going to be in here, a thankfulness thing. Is there anything about that? So he does this thing every November is he focuses on thankfulness, you know, or gratitude. You know, if we are approaching every day with gratitude first, you know, like, hey, I'm grateful that we have a church that has chairs in it. You know, I'm grateful that we have a church that, you know, instead of like, man, these chairs are very uncomfortable. Or man, like, if we go into it thinking like, hey, let's be grateful about it. And this has been really heavy, not heavy, but this has been in my brain lately. Our air conditioner broke again. I told you this.
Yes.
So we had it fixed 6 weeks ago. We had it fixed, and we're like, hey, we're so grateful for our air conditioner. Like, I'm like, we prayed about it. We're like, God, thank you so much for this AC. And then Friday, our air conditioner broke again. And I'm like, am I willing to say, God, thank you so much for this.
For being
like,
hot.
Well, like, I'm like, what, how can I be thankful in this situation? Right. You know, I'm like, hey, we have a house. You know, we have family that let us borrow a window unit. You know, we have some fans. Let's find the ways to be thankful about it. And I mean, it was tough. It was tough. And spending $2,600 is tough. It's very tough. You know, over 6 weeks. It's not a fun time, you know, but like those, how can I, you know, but finding ways to be grateful, finding, it doesn't have to necessarily be grateful for certain situations, but it can be like, be grateful about something else. You know, hey, I have a car that has good air conditioning. Let's go drive around. Or, hey, I've got $5. Let's go buy some ice cream. Or let's go find other ways to be grateful. You know, or another instance of this is, man, the other day, Elliot had football practice. It's hot outside. We had a lot to do. But Elliot wanted to roll the windows down and listen to music really loud on the highway and stick his hands out and do all that stuff. And instead of that drive, just me being grumpy and like, oh, come on, let's hurry up, get home. I got to make dinner. Got to do all this. You know, we spent a couple extra minutes just cruising down the highway with the windows down and just enjoying it. And I'm going to get a little emotional talking about it, but like, it was like, this is that 20 minutes with my son on the highway, just listening to whatever song. That's core memory for me, and I hope for him. Like, it's something dumb, but like, that's something we can be grateful for, is just the time that we have with people. We don't have to, you know, I got in a real bad habit of just hating the commute to things. Like,
to drive again.
Yeah, I got to get in the car, go drive this way. I spent all day in the car, you know, and that's pretty true for a lot of parents in our stages of life for the next 20 years, you know. So partially that's the reason why we do this podcast, so you can maybe listen to that while you're waiting in the car at your kid's football practice or whatever. But anyway, like, find reasons to be grateful, and then encouragement can overflow from that.
Well, and I have people in my life that are just Debbie Downers.
Yeah.
They're just negative.
Yeah.
And Ben and I were talking about this the other day, and it's like, when you've been around those people that are not encouraging, that find the negative in church, no matter what, or in life, that is so disheartening. Because you're like, whatever, little tiny, because it's never anything big. It's always something super tiny. Like you're saying, like, the chair is uncomfortable. Yeah. And you're like, but we have a chair. Yeah. You're not standing.
Yeah. Or sometimes you may have to stand for 4 or 5 extra minutes for another song.
You're not sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much easier to be an encourager than a Debbie Downer.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier.
Okay,
Just
sometimes
depends on our
I
mood.
like to complain. So, okay, let's just nix that. Take that out.
No, I'm gonna leave it in
Because I like to complain.
What's the next question?
And then the last question is, would the church be healthier if just overall healthier?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really uncomfortable because that makes you look completely at yourself. All of these questions.
Yeah.
Is it going to make the church overall healthier, or does it bring the church down
Mm-hmm.
for people to act like me or the listener or you or whoever? Does that bring the church down, or does it make it healthier?
Wow. And I think that, that kind of brings up a good point about what does a healthy church look like. Does a healthy church look like a full church? Or does a healthy church look like a church that's discipled, that's growing in their faith, that knows Christ and knows how to live that way? And I think the answer is the second one, or it could be both, as long as disciples, it's go and make disciples, not go and make attenders or consumers. Go and make disciples, and that means go and make producers, And so if our church is doing that, or putting most of its resources in doing that and worshiping God while doing that, I think that's the way. And so if you are, I think to answer that question, if you are somebody that is being discipled, that's making disciples, I think that then the church would be healthy if you were doing that. That's a lot easier said than done. Because sometimes the word disciple is kind of like, of course I'm a disciple, of course I follow Christ, but that doesn't. But the fruit is in what you do.
Right.
It's not about just saying it; it's about doing it. Not about being a consumer, but being a producer, going and bearing fruit, abiding in the vine. I think that so that's something to look at. Are you bearing fruit? And if you are, then that's a good sign that the church would be healthy if it was just full of yous.
And then it is easy to talk about what the church, in quotes, should do, but it's hard to remember that we are the church.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not on the staff.
Yeah.
Like we're going back to the consumer thing to make sure that you're completely filled.
Yeah.
If you're just sitting in the back row and then leaving as soon as service is over, never speaking to anyone, I understand there are people that do that, but how are you growing in your faith? How are you making connections? How do you have a church family?
Yeah.
Doing stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're just showing up, watching, and leaving, that's not church. You're coming, you're being here. You might say hi during the howdy doody time, but you're not. It's the gathering of the saints isn't just what we do on Sundays. The gathering of the saints also happens around the dinner table. Gathering always also happens around at football games. If it's focused that way, or you need to be intentional with these times,
right?
Hey, let's have church right here, right now. Let's get to the nitty gritty of how we're dealing with our faith, and we can do that anywhere. But it's awkward sometimes. But how you establish the connection for that is at our Sunday morning things. Don't just come and watch, participate. And I'm sure I'll have some more to say on this as I take more of this class. I'm taking a class called Christian Worship, and it goes through the history of Christian worship and all this stuff. But it's all the things that we do on Sunday morning, they need to be pointed to Christ. Oftentimes we're like, hey, we do this because we do it this way because, certain people like this do this way. And this is common in all churches, not just our church.
No. All churches.
But some of the, we do things because people prefer things. But we got to be careful with that because we got to find, are we doing this because of people? Are we doing this because this is what God deserves? Are we singing the songs we sing because they make me feel good? Are we singing the songs we sing because God deserves it?
That's a good point.
Or are we preaching messages, which I think Donovan does a great thing of preaching the message is to make it to
Right.
we're pointing to God, and the word points to God. Thomas does a great job with the songs, but sometimes it's on us too. Like, hey, let's take this off of us.
I've said the words before. I hate that song. Why are we singing this song? I hate this song.
Yeah, I mean,
who cares what Courtney thinks?
Well, it's hard
It's
hard with preferences. And it's hard, because we also have ownership in church. Church is, I think I've said this before, but church is for us, but it's not about us. And I think that's something we need to like hammer home, is like, it's not, and we've kind of experienced this in youth. Like, certain kids don't like certain things about what we do, and we shouldn't change everything for that. We should make sure what we're doing is pointing kids to Christ, regardless. But we also need to be able to reach people. But there's a balance,
right?
Reaching people, making disciples is also worship. Praying is worship. Reading the Bible is worship. Giving is worship. If we're doing those things for the right reasons.
Right.
And so so moving from a consumer to a producer is it's a big deal.
I just have one last thought.
What is it?
At some point, the community we are looking for will require the contribution we have been withholding. And that was an actual quote from the lady who was talking about this. She said, when people go into these churches or they leave these churches, and this is not our church, any church.
It could be our church.
It could be, but I'm saying this person's not from our church.
Yeah.
They're like, well, they didn't do this for me. They did not, the youth wasn't good enough for my kids, or the children's was not fun enough for my kids, or whatever. But what are you doing? What are you pouring into it to make the church better?
Yeah.
You want a community in your church, but you have to pour into it.
Yeah.
You can't just sit back and let everybody else do it. And that's me included, not...
Oh, yeah. It's for everybody. Yeah, like, we can't just...
Yeah, I said, I just want people to be like, oh, she's judging everyone. No. Myself too.
I mean, yeah, at some point, like, and that goes back to the Corinthians passage I read. One body, many parts. We're all created. Ephesians 2:10 says we are God's handiwork. We're his workmanship, depending on the created in Christ Jesus for good works that he has prepared beforehand, depending on the translation. But that word handiwork or workmanship means that God created us, carefully crafted us for a specific thing. Like, we are made to do this. And at some point, our church is going to need you to do this, or God is going to need you to do this to grow his church. Are you going to be willing? Are you going to be ready to do that? Because we're, God is preparing works beforehand for us to do, so we just need to be ready and equipped and excited and all of those things because God is going to need us, or God has a plan for us. He doesn't need it. He can do it without
whatever.
us, but he chooses to do it with us. A good example of that is the other day we were at my in-laws' house, and one of their kitchen chairs were wobbly. It was the one I sit in, so I wanted to fix it. So I got a wrench or whatever, and I went and I told Elliot, I said, Elliot, come here. And this took us way too long to do it. But I had Elliot learn how to use a wrench. Like, hey, let's tighten these chairs. Let's keep one more turn. And it was hard because he's like trying to figure it out. I'm right-handed, he's left-handed. I'm trying to show. That's a whole other podcast. But, like, I'm letting him do the thing, and it took us way too long to do this, but he did it. He didn't care that he did it, but I'm like, I'm trying to. Or the other day when our air conditioner went out, I took Easton up in the attic.
Oh, goodness.
I'm like, hey, this is what, come stand here and watch me do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to let you come look and see. Yeah. Because I have good memories of my dad and my grandpa showing me like that. And that's God chooses to use us in that way. Like, he's got this big objective he's doing. Sometimes he just wants us to turn the wrench once.
And he's patient.
And he's very patient. Sometimes he just wants us to turn the wrench. And we've got to be ready for that.
It's good.
It's good. Sorry to preach, but it's all right. It's our podcast.
Yeah, you can preach if you want.
It's our podcast. We can do what we want. Okay. You got anything else? All right. We got a family challenge. Be a producer, not a consumer. And come to church. We'd love to have you. And hopefully we're all of those good things.
If you see a need, fill it.
Yeah. If you see a need, fill it. All right. That's all we got this week. Episode 96. We'll come at you in episode 97. We're going to be talking about daily rhythms and keeping Christ in our routine. So we'll talk at y'all next week. Peace.